Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to start in just a minute with the Public Finance and Policy Committee, but for those of you on the wall, please come up, just leave maybe the first 2 rows across for committee members, but please bring yourself up to maybe the everything but the first couple of rows will be great. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get started with the Public Finance and Policy Committee. Today we're going to hear for the first hearing House Bill 464. And Mr. Chairman, you have the floor.
Oh, it doesn't have a... Is that right? Yeah, turned it off. Okay, thank you, Chairman. Y'all got me presenting a lot of bills today here. HB 464. I think if you heard our original press conference with the speaker, and you know, this bill was assigned to appropriations. There was some technical difficulties, and I think it didn't necessarily show up in their committee. But having spoke with Chairman Hatchett, we were going to hear that bill today, and essentially it removes the cap, as previously mentioned, on the revenue shortfall reserve, and then it would allow permissive, using the word may, any amount exceeding 25% of the previous fiscal year's net revenue to be used for tax relief. So, and that would be upon act of the General Assembly. That's, in short, the bill. Try to answer any questions.
Any questions, committee? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to pass, Mr. Chairman.
We got a move and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And it moved. All those opposed, it moves on to the full committee in just a little bit. Are you on?
You just do it.
Got it. We're going to move on to Chairman Martin is not here, so I guess we can go on to and Mr. Representative Cannon's not here. Oh, there he is, Chaz. Sorry. You can either stand at the podium here.
Ooh, that hurt.
House Bill 1052.
Test. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate the chance to hear this bill. It's House Bill 1052 LC 442655S as a substitute.
And if you'll hold just a moment, I'm going to put a sign-up sheet for those that want to speak. Please come up here and grab the sheet if you need to speak on the bill, and you have the floor again.
All right, the purpose of the bill is to provide some flexibility in the CUVA statute for non-family farm entities to give them the ability to rent farmland that is currently enrolled in CUVA. As the code reads today, if a CUVA qualified family farm wanted to lease their farmland to a non-family farm entity, it would breach the underlying CUVA covenant for the landowner. That's the original language beginning on line 51 in the bill. This simply does not reflect the reality of farming operations today. If 2 college buddies wanted to begin a farming operation and they wanted to form an LLC to have some liability protection and to split equipment costs and input costs, a landowner who is enrolled in CUVA could not lease their farmland to that LLC because it would breach the landowner's covenant. The reason the 2 college buddies that wants to farm are not related to each other by blood or marriage within the 4th degree of civil reckoning. That's the current requirement under the current CUVA statute to qualify as a family farm. So we spent a good deal of time with Ledge Council working on this. We spoke to some local tax assessors to get some ideas, as well as the original author of CUVA, Richard Royal. Spent a lot of time with Richard on the phone in Ledge Council's office. The bill incorporates all of the original CUVA qualifying restrictions for eligibility, but it does allow some flexibility, and that's the purpose for non-family farm entities. So our goal in crafting this bill was to maintain the integrity of the CUVA statute. That was our original cause, while also providing some leeway in the code to reflect the reality of today's farming operations. That's the basic purpose of the bill. We've spoken with all the ag groups. They're in support. We've spoken with ACCG. I mentioned it to them. We spent a good bit of time with the assessors. And Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, I have a few folks to speak to the bill, if you have time for that, if you'll allow it.
Absolutely. This being the first hearing today, this is, I can remember, as you mentioned, Chairman Richard Royal, back when I had black hair, introducing the CUVA legislation, and it's been around for a long time. So,
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you.
and we'll have our first speaker come up to the podium and introduce yourself.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I'm Will Bentley with the Georgia Agribusiness Council, and we represent all sectors of the ag industry, from the farm level to manufacturers and everything in between. And there's no more important program to Georgia farmers than CUVA. And we appreciate Representative Cannon bringing this up and working with us and other groups to try to perfect this, because the realities of farming are changing in our state. Because of high input costs, high labor costs, high personal liability, it's forced our farmers to look at their businesses differently. And I think this is what this bill gets at, to address some of the things that they're doing as far as forming LLCs, corporations, and other general partnerships. We just got a study from the University of Georgia looking at the ag census over the last 5 years, and we have lost 7% of our farms. But with losing that farms, we haven't lost much farmland. So what that tells us is that farms are having to get bigger. They're having to consolidate to be able to compete on a global scale. We're seeing the only categories of farming that has seen growth is that of farms that are over 2,000 acres. So every other sector of the farm levels have gone down except for those 2,000 acres or larger, and that's gone up 22%. And then farms by legal status, family or individual farms are down 9%. Those in just general partnerships are down 7%. But those that are in LLCs and other types of corporations have gone up 18%. And that's not big corporations coming in from out of state. That's just simply farms, families having to partner together, having to work together to make sure they protect their assets and are able to compete. So Representative Cannon's put a lot of work into this, trying to make sure that we protected CUVA, that we protected our farmers, and we believe he's done so. So we support the bill and ask y'all to do so as well, but I can answer any questions if there are any.
Questions of committee? Excellent job of explaining. Senator Eccles, before you leave, would you like to address?
Thank you. I appreciate Representative Cannon bringing forth this legislation. In Hall County, I was a former county commissioner before I joined the Senate, and while I was county commissioner, 3 farm LLCs were kicked out of CUVA because of this technicality. So it's necessary, it's happening, it's spreading to other counties, and it's going to happen to other counties as they learn about this technicality, and so I appreciate your consideration of the bill.
Thank you so much, Senator.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else to speak? Oh, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I'll just leave one final comment. Our family farms in CUVA, and we lease our land to family farmers, but my dad quit farming back in the 90s. But it's important to remember that when you lease the land, the underlying landowner still is just responsible for the CUVA, retaining the CUVA statute and being in compliance. So if the lessee does something that kind of gets the landowner out of compliance, that's going to kick the landowner out of CUVA. So it's almost keeps a checks and balances there by doing this.
Thank you, Representative Cannon, for the bill, and it's I agree with you. It's something that we need to address. So,
thank you, Mr. Chairman.
If there's no one else, this being the first hearing, we'll hear this the second time around, and we'll move on to. Yes, sir. Still got. The author is not here on House Bill 1181, but this being the second hearing, I have a feeling that the chairman has little knowledge on this. And you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to try to pick up where Chairman Martin left off, but I think what we had was a few suggestions on some things that were captured that were not intended to be such, and I think the primary change you'll see on page 28 at the end where we're actually talking about the fact that this is applicable only to unused tax credits generated during the taxable years beginning on or after the specified date. So we won't impact any credits. This is just to clarify as much. So I think from the original presentation, I can, kind of roll back into the fact that during our analysis, during the panel discussions over the course of the last several months, it came up that we wanted to try to limit the exposure where we could to the state on some of these credits and exemptions. So we adjusted some of the carry forwards, and we put sunsets on a few of these that are either underutilized or not utilized. But the sunsets are out 5 years, so we should have plenty of time to address any concerns, and some of those have been addressed in this substitute. I don't know if anybody wants to speak to the bill, try to answer any questions.
Any questions? We're, this being the second hearing and the author is not here and it's explained, is there a motion?
Move to pass, Mr. Chairman.
Got a motion, and I know we got a second.
I think the Metro Chamber wanted to speak.
Metro Chamber, my apologies, you can come up and speak to the bill at the podium.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Leanna Brown with the Metro Atlanta Chamber. Just want to thank the committee for working so diligently and listening to the concerns of the business community on this bill. The Metro Atlanta Chamber is first and foremost an economic development organization, and we know firsthand how tax incentives can make or break projects in our state, and we know firsthand how companies value long-term predictability and certainty, and so we are grateful to have been at the table and to have had our concerns heard, and this bill takes into account a lot of those concerns, and we're happy to continue working with the legislature to refine the legislation and make sure that we have a competitive and predictable tax environment. Thank you.
There you go. Thank you. Now that we've got a quorum again, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. And all opposed. The bill moves on to the full committee, and I believe that's all that we have. So we're adjourned, and we'll move into the full committee.
Wait till people finish their lunch and begin in a minute.
We'll be back in about 10 minutes.